Hmm? I cannot find it, Oppa. Oh, can you find it, Oppa? I can't find it. I need to log. Anya. Hi everyone. Just wait for a short little while, okay? I'm trying to figure out how to work this on my laptop. Oh, okay. Oh, Cindy prepared. Did she say that? Oh, that's good. Hang on. Okay, I need to get on so I can see everyone's comments. I'm trying to figure out how to work this. Okay, I muted it too. Sorry. Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining again. Thanks for putting up with my computer skills. I was trying to figure out how to get to see the comment section. Okay. Oh, thanks for all the well wishes. Hi, everyone. Oh, Cindy asked how I'm feeling. I'm feeling much better. Thank you. Yeah, I just needed to rest a little. I'm glad you got the materials ready. Okay, so this is what you need for today. All right. We're going to be making a cake. So as long as you have your chocolate color, the black color clay, you need some pliers, or if you just have any regular plier in your house, that's fine too. Okay. If you have a round cookie cutter or bottle cap, that will work. And then something you can cut the clay with, a pen knife is also okay, or a normal the food knife, the cutlery, knife cutlery, that's okay too. As long as you don't use it to eat later, it's fine. Plastic knife, anything works as long as you can cut the clay. And the last thing you need is the eye pin. So if you have the eye pin, this is also important because we will use it to fix it onto the charm that we're making today and bake it together. And this will help us make our bracelets and keychains next week. Okay, so this is all you need for today. Very simple. The other thing you would need is a roller to roll the clay. If you definitely need something like that. If you don't have this, it's fine. A normal bottle, as long as it is round and the surface is flat, it's okay. All right. So when we're ready, we can start. Okay. So today we're going to be making the cake charm. Okay, slice cake. So I'm making chocolate cake today. So I actually made you can see over here, I have like cake that is already sliced, some of it, okay? So there's already cake slice. So I'm going to be making something like this. We have your milk chocolate covering, okay? And then inside you have the sponge part. So we're going to be making this. I will show you how to make the colors for this also. This is like what did my dad likes this cake, Lana chocolate cake, is it? Or is it Jane's Cake Station? I can't remember which one, but the color looks something similar to this, okay? So it's your regular chocolate cake. Okay, so we are going to make the sponge part first. So for the sponge part, it has to be a very dark brown. I couldn't find that kind of dark brown in just like the clay, the very dark brown clay at Art Friend. So I had to mix the colors, and that's why I told you to get black ready. So I'm going to show you how to mix the colors, okay? So I got my new packet of black clay. I just bought it that day. It's so hard. I'm Cindy. I'm glad you managed to find the materials. Because that day when I went to Art Friend, a lot of it was sold out. And I was like hunting high and low. I dragged Oppa with me quite into a lot of places. I was trying to find what I need. So I'm glad some of you managed to get what you need, okay? Oh, Cindy said awfully chocolate. Oh, yes. Awfully chocolate. Oh, I haven't had awfully chocolate in a while. They do have nice cakes. So, okay, so this is the black clay, okay? I am going to be using to make the sponge and a cake for about cake this big, all right? I am going to use about 1/4 of the black clay, okay? 1/4, yes. So very easy. What's 1/4? When your clay is new, right? They have all these little lines on the clay itself. They actually the lines tell you that how big the piece is. It's actually in quarters already. So this is 1/4. If you cut according to the line, you'll get 1/4 of the clay. Okay. So I cut out 1/4 of black. Okay, you don't need the rest of the black already. The black clay we are finished with it. Next, you will need your brown clay. Okay, the chocolate part of the clay. So before I cut the chocolate, because that one is lighter than the black, I just want to make sure the thing I'm cutting with is clean. Okay, so I wiped it. And then for the chocolate colored clay, right, you need about, okay, I'm going to cut about half of it first. All right. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually just going to play around with how dark or light I want it to be. So basically I use 1/4 and then 1/8, which is about half of the quarter for the brown, and then I'll mix it, okay, to see whether I like the color, whether it's too dark and I still want it a bit lighter. So I'm just going to use my roller. I'm going to press my black color clay flat. All right. Oh, thanks, Javia. Thanks for hoping I'm better. I am better. Okay, I just needed to rest a little last week. I'm feeling much, much better though. Okay, I wrote the black flat, so now I put the chocolate color on top of it this way. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, okay? Um, while I'm doing the steps, I hope that all of you, those that got the materials, please do it together with me, okay? I promise to try and not do it so quickly so that you can keep up, okay? Okay, so basically I have like two colors like this. It looks like this now. Okay, I'm going to face the brown part on the outside. And this is just a very quick way to mix the colors. I'm just going to roll it. Okay, this way, so it becomes like a rolled up bunch of clay. And then I'm going to roll it flat again. All right. So while I'm doing this, some people like to knead it with their hands, but I think that takes a lot more time. It's a lot slower. So I prefer to just like roll it up this way and then roll it flat again. And you can see that the colors will start mixing in. You can see that it starts to mix in. Then you just keep rolling it. Use the roller that you have to roll it flat. Okay, I know for some people, if you have been doing polymer clay before, this is not your first project. You might have a pasta machine, especially for rolling out the clay. You can use that. It goes a lot faster and a lot quicker, and it's a lot less tiring. Okay. But this one is this is just a good way. Sometimes you feel like you need to work off some stress. I use this as a way to work off some of my stress sometimes. Okay, so I just keep repeating the steps. Now you can start to see there's a bit of marbling already between the black and the brown. Okay, there's a little bit of marbling. So you just keep repeating the steps. Okay, and you just keep rolling it till it becomes uniform. So the mixture becomes one uniform color. So actually, I'm quite liking this dark brown color. Okay, it's no longer just pure black. It's actually a little bit of a darker brown. It looks like a really dark chocolate type of color. Okay. So I am happy with this. We just want to make sure that it doesn't get too light, because if it gets too light, later when we use this chocolate color for the icing, right, there won't be too much contrast. So you want to make sure that it is dark enough so that there's still contrast with the brown that you're using for your chocolate covering later. Okay, so now the color is, after the marbling step, right, it will look very uniform. So now my color looks very uniform. Okay, so from black, I've made it into a very dark brown. Okay, so I'm happy with this color. This is definitely enough for the sponge. So if you use about a quarter of your black and 1/8 of your brown, okay, you'll get enough so that you'll have this sponge. You have enough to make a cake, basically, your miniature polymer cake. Okay, so after we're done with this, right, we are going to cut the sponge. So if you can get your cutter ready. Okay, I'm going to use my roller again. Because it's the same color, I don't have to clean it. Okay, and I'm just going to roll it into a sheet. So I want to cut, if you look at this cake that I made, right, I have 3 layers. So I want to cut 3 of the 3 round cuts, 3 of the sponge layers basically, with my black color, with this dark brown color that I have. Okay, so what I'm going to do, okay, I roll it into a round ball. And then I just get it into a very fat log. It's a very fat log shape, okay? And then I use my roller to flatten it this way. So basically, I'm just making a sheet. Okay, so for, oh, there's a bit of bubbles in here. So for making the sheet, right, actually you want it to be of even thickness. Okay, so my suggestion when you roll, don't go back and forth this way, because, okay, I'll show you. If I go back and forth this way, right, on my clay, you will end up with very uneven thickness. If you can see from this way, it's very uneven. Okay, so the best way, sorry, I have to redo it. The best way that you can do this, let me get it back to my fat log shape. Okay, is to go in one direction all the way. Okay, so you roll it in one direction all the way. Usually the easiest, you start from the center, you go towards you, and then you keep flipping the clay this way, and the thickness will be quite even. All right. Okay, so it's definitely more even than the one that we have earlier on. So you start from the middle and then you roll it towards you. So it will get bigger and then it will also be more even. So mine has a little air bubble in the middle. Okay, if you are worried about the air bubble, that's fine. If you have a toothpick or a satay stick, anything sharp, you just poke the air bubble and then you just roll it and the air bubble will be okay. It will come out, all right? Okay, so my other suggestion, because this is meant to be the sponge part of the cake, it shouldn't be too thin. If it's too thin, then of course your cake will not be stacked thickly, okay? It will be a very thin type of cake. So you just want to make sure that it's not too thin. So I actually think this might be, okay, this seems fine. So maybe you want it about 1/2 centimeter thick. about 0.5 centimeter thick. You take your, if you have a cookie cutter, good. If not, if you have a bottle cap, that's fine. You just take it and then you press it to cut out the shapes. For the bottle caps, you can, if you can't cut it all the way through, okay, you can cut it all the way through, but you can use a toothpick. So a bottle cap, if the clay gets stuck in between, you can use the toothpick to kind of make an air pocket and take out the clay, all right? So I've managed to make 2. So here's the tricky part. I have to redo this again and make sure I roll it to the same thickness to get my 3rd layer of sponge. This is like baking an extra cake, an actual cake, I'm sorry. Okay, get it back to this fat lock shape again. Okay, keep rolling the clay towards you. Start from the middle and then roll out to the sides until you get it about 0.5 cm thick. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's about there. All right. So take the cookie cutter and you cut it. The other way to not get a bottle cap to maybe stick to your clay, you can try using some cornstarch, okay, like the flour, but not regular flour. Try using cornstarch because cornstarch, the grains are much finer. So it's a little bit better. If you use bread flour or regular flour, it will really stick to the clay. Then you have flour on your clay, will be very hard to remove. Cornstarch is because the grain or flour itself is a little bit smaller, so it's easier for the cornstarch to remove it and to wipe it off. All right. So we have our 3 layers of sponge. So that is done. Next, we need to have the icing in between. So because we're working with a lighter color, we are going to clean the countertop or the tabletop that you're working on. Make sure to clean everything, okay? So the tabletop you're working on, the materials like your roller and your cutter, make sure to clean all those. And we have to clean the cookie cutter as well, or your bottle cap, okay? Because this will you're using it to cut the clay later. So you just want to make sure the colors don't mix. And clean the roller. Okay. Best to get something, the cleaner I got is actually really good. It removes oils like a kitchen cleaner actually. But because it removes a bit of the oil, the one I got is not very, very strong. And it is a one wipe type of thing. So I don't have to use water and go through it again. So it's really good. I really like this. But it really gets rid of the oil for the polymer clay very well. So, and it's clean and you can use it again immediately. It dries quickly too. Okay, so now we're going to use the chocolate portion. I am going to cut again. So now I am going to use about I'm going to use about 1/4 of the chocolate. Okay, 1/4 might be too much, but it's okay because we're not mixing the colors. So you can always reuse your excess clay again, it's fine. But it's safer if we use about 1/4 of the chocolate colored clay. Okay, so you use your roller and then just roll it flat. Okay, for new clays, right? It's a bit softer, so it's okay. But if you have older clay, sometimes they get a bit crumbly when you're working with them. So if you just if your hands are warm, right, you can just keep it in between your palms this way. And when you warm up the clay, it will become softer. If you have clay that's really, really old and it crumbles, I've heard of people like putting it in their pockets for half an hour so that it will keep it like will really warm it up and then it will soften later. But I've never done that. You can try. Um, the other one that I would recommend is you can get a clay softener from Art Friend. So they do have clay softener. It's a Sculpey brand. And you can just add a drop or two to soften the clay. And then you'll probably have to roll it back and forth to kind of mix everything in. But it works. It's just that crumble clay, you just need to, you can still use it. You don't have to throw it away. But you just want to, you just have to have a bit more steps to make it usable again. Okay, so basically what I'm doing now is I am rolling out my chocolate and I'm starting the middle like earlier on. Then I'm rolling it out to the sides. For those that have done baking before, this is very similar to rolling out a tart shell. So you always start in the center and then you go out to the side. This is because it will help you keep the evenness of your the thickness the of the sheet that you want. Okay, it will help keep it even. So always start in the middle and roll towards you. And then I just keep flipping it round and then I'm just going in 4 directions. So for this one, I'm actually going to make it a lot thinner than my sponge. I am going to make it maybe about 1/4 of a centimeter thick. Okay, so it's quite thin. Not paper thin, but thin, okay? Thinner than your sponge. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or any comments. Um, if you need me to repeat a step again, or you know, please let me know also. I'll be more than happy to do that. Okay. So this is definitely one of the things. When I was looking at how to make this, right, there's a lot of YouTube videos on making cake and sweets and stuff like that. So there's many different ways. I saw many intricate things like even making the strawberry topping, but I think that would be a higher level. So I'm starting with the very, very basic first, okay? You don't have to do chocolate cake, you know. If you have other colors you like the white sponge cake with the white icing, you can do that, okay? So you can play around with the colors, the color of your sponge, the color of your icing, totally up to you. Cakes are very colorful, so you can play around with it quite a bit. Okay, so now I got it to the thickness I want, which is very, very thin. It's not very thick. And I am going to cut the in-between part of my sponge cake. So these are going to be the icing that is in between my sponge layers. Okay, so it's very thin. All right. If you don't have a smooth tabletop, okay, don't worry. You can always work with on baking paper too. So just spread baking paper on your tabletop if you have a wooden table at home or wooden dining table, and then you can work on top of the parchment paper. Okay, so this is what I have done for my icing. Okay, I just want to make sure that it is on top of my sponge. Okay. So I place it on top of my sponge, then I place the second sponge on top of it. And then I take my other one. Okay, I place it again. It's like making an actual cake. All right, placing it on top of the sponge and then placing the last layer of sponge on top. So basically I have this. Okay, so I have my 3 sponge layers and then the 2 layers of icing. All right. So then now, if the sheet I rolled out is big enough, okay, I will cover the cake with my icing with the chocolate thing that I made. All right. So this with the chocolate color. So this is the outside of the cake. Okay, this part will get a little bit tricky because I'm just going to cut away this part. Okay, the excess part. Okay, this part's going to get a little bit tricky because there'll be folds and things like that. Okay, so usually I like to put it on top of the counter like this. Okay, and then kind of just press it in so that I get as little folds as possible. But if you get folds like around the icing of the cake, right? Don't worry. Okay, if it's stuck to the countertop, just use your cutter or something, and then lift it up a bit, and it'll come off. Okay, so you can see that there will be some folds at the side because this is round, so it's not like a square where you can put it perfectly, you know, smooth to the surface of the cake. Okay, so don't worry too much if that happens. I'll show you what to do with that. Okay, but for now, what I'm trying to do is get rid of the air bubble in between. So I don't want air bubbles there. Okay, there's a bit of air bubble. Okay, so I just want to make sure that there's no air bubbles. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, if a pair of scissors is easier for you, use a pair of scissors and cut away all the excess at the side. Okay, I'm just going to tear mine. All right. Okay, but if you want to be more careful, use a pair of scissors to just cut around the excess. Okay, I'm just tearing it, but I'm leaving some, I'm not tearing it right to the edge. I'm leaving some extra around the side still. Okay, so I'm left with something like this. Okay, so I actually have a cake like this. Hopefully everyone's keeping up, okay, and they're able to cover their cakes. Okay, one way to make it really even, of course, is to just press the top of it down onto your working surface. This way. So I do have a bit of air bubbles, but that is okay. It doesn't matter. You will see why later. All right, so the bottom part here is the problem part, right? Because now we have all this excess. If you have a the knife that you're using, okay, if you're using a pen knife, please be very careful. Don't cut yourself. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scrape the excess off. This will hopefully give me a clean edge when I cut away all the excess that I don't need. All right, so this is basically what I'm doing. I'm using it to cut away the excess. If it's a little messy, don't worry, I'll teach you how to tidy it up. Okay? So basically, I'm just cutting away the excess. And I'm cutting away more here. This week has been a very rainy week. It's been raining all day. I'm living in Punggol, so it rains a lot here. It gets very, very windy. So it just started raining again this morning. Okay, this is a bit messy, but it's the bottom of the cake, so it's all right. Don't worry too much. Okay, So I'm like placing it on the countertop this way to just kind of shape it a little. And then if I press it a little bit flat this way, the bottom will also flatten out, all right? So it's a bit messy at the bottom, but that's fine. Okay, I'm just trimming it a little. Okay, so I've trimmed the sides to how I want it to look like. Okay, so these are my scraps. Okay, so I was saying earlier, when you can see that it's a little bit messy around the sides like that, right? It's not like a regular cake where it's smooth around the sides. Some sides are fine, they're quite smooth, but some sides like here, they're a bit messy. And if you have some folds, it's okay. You use your, if you have a knife like the dining knife that you use or the plastic knife that you use, right? Use the not the sharp side but the blunt side, like the other side of the knife, and then you kind of just use the flat part of the knife to press on the where all the folds are. Okay, where you have like the defects that you're not too happy with. So you kind of press and go over that area. Okay, and it will go away. You see, just now there were some lines there, now it's smooth again. So you can use that to kind of press on the area that you're not happy with. So let's say here, again, okay, I have this fold here and stuff and things like that. I just press the knife on it this way. Okay, I use the flat side of it and I just go over it. And then after that, it's smooth again. All right. So you can do something like that. Okay, and it will smooth out your whole, it will smooth out the cake. If anyone has done baking before and do icing, this is exactly what they do. They use a flat spatula to kind of go around the side of the cake to flatten, to get rid of all the 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 folds and things like that. So to make it nice and smooth, to make the icing around the cake nice and smooth. Okay, so you kind of just go over it a few times. If you want to, you can go over in one direction. It will make it neater if you do that. Okay, so I'm also doing the bottom so that the bottom is also uniform and flat. Okay, so now if I go around the whole cake, you can see it's quite uniform. There's no more creases and folds and things like that. Okay, if there's some crack somewhere, you can also same thing, just use the flat of the knife to kind of the flat side of the knife to just go over it a few times and it will go away. Okay, so my cake is done. So you can see that, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but there's a tiny air bubble here. Okay, there's an air bubble here and an air bubble here. There's a bit of air bubble. It's okay, because now we are going to cut our cake like a regular cake. So I'm going to cut it right over the air bubble. Okay, I'll cut it in half first. So if there's the air bubble, I just press it and then it's out now, okay? Because I have exposed it. So I will cut it in half, then into quarters. If there's any questions along the way, please feel free to ask, okay? I'll be more than happy to answer. If not, definitely comment. And, please like our page. If you're interested in polymer clay, I have a polymer group also. So please join. Once in a while, I'll be updating on the projects that I'm doing, where to get some materials or what to prepare for the following week, all right? So please do join if you're interested. All right, so basically I've cut it into 8 pieces. And then I have my cake. All I need is the cake board at the bottom, a box to put the cake in, okay? But I have my miniature cake, okay? So I cut it into 8 pieces. All right, so this is done. Just going to clean it up a bit so it looks a bit less neater. Okay, so if I do this, you can see the inside of the cake. Okay, you have your proper with all your sponge and your chocolate fudge icing layers inside. All right, if I separate, I'll get one slice, and this will be our charm, or this will be our charm or the bracelet or earrings or whatever we want to make it into. Okay, so now we are going to add some texture to this because all this is very smooth. Okay, we want to add some texture. So the first one I made, if I can show you, I actually made a mistake. Okay, okay, so I just cut it and then this was done and then I just went to bake it. But I made a mistake, so it's very smooth. But sponge doesn't usually look so nice and smooth because sponge has air bubbles in it and stuff like that, right? So it actually looks rough. The icing looks smooth, but sponge usually doesn't look so smooth. So this is where if you have a toothpick, please take your toothpick, all right? Hopefully I'm not going too fast, okay? Take your toothpick, and then for the sponge layers, right, you choose the slice that you like and you're happy with, okay? Then for the sponge layers, what you're going to do just on the sponge layers, not on the icing, you are going to use your toothpick and just poke at it, okay? You just go poke at it randomly. You just poke at the sponge, the sponge layers, all right? And then I will show you for comparison. So you just keep poking at it. So I want to eat chocolate cake now. I am craving for chocolate cake now. So you try not to touch the layers of icing in between, all right? Just the sponge layers only. When you use toothpick. If you think toothpick is too blunt, like too thick for you, right? The tips of toothpick. You can always try like needle or something that's a bit thinner. But I just toothpick is easier to get for me, so I always just will use the toothpick instead of a needle or something. Okay, so you can see. Let me take another one to compare. So you can see like the difference. Okay, this is how the sponge would actually look like, and then this is the smooth one. Okay, so I just want to make sure I get the other side. And then I'm just randomly making holes with the toothpick. You don't have to use too much force with this, all right? I know once in a while to create this sponge look, I will use what is it? The toothbrush. But then toothbrush for this one is too white. It's too white for me to use the toothbrush to kind of create this. The other one that I've seen, but I don't have because I don't have an old one. You can try using for ladies would know this very well, not guys. But when you draw your eyebrows, right? Then there's an eyebrow brush that you use to either comb your eyebrows or to blend the colors in for your eyebrows, right? You can use the eyebrow brush because those are skinny enough, and then you can use the brush to kind of create this texture for you. I've seen that too, and actually that turns out really nicely, but I don't have an old one, so I'm using the toothpick instead. So you can make use of anything that you find in the house that you think works for you. You don't have to specifically go out and buy a tool to make your cake and things like that. So this would be a good okay. So it started out like this, and then you use the toothpick, and then the texture, you actually get this texture. If you compare both sides, you can tell. Okay. So I'm going to do two because I might want to make earrings out of this or something. All right. So anyway, you have 8 slices. You can do a lot of things, okay? You can after you if you want to do all of it, you can. You can add the eye pin, which I'll show you how to add the eye pin to. I'll add the eye pin to it. But because you have 8 of it, right? You can turn some into keychains. You can turn some into put some into a charm bracelet. You can make a necklace out of it, and a pair of earrings. You know, a lot of options. Given that we made the whole cake, okay. So I'm just making another one, so that if I want to make it into a pair of earrings, I have that option. Okay, after doing this, right, we are going to stick the eye pin in so we can turn it, we can use it after it's done baking for charms and like the things I mentioned earlier, earrings, bracelets, things like that. And I will show you how to do those next week. So for the past 4-5 weeks, I have been making different types of sweets. Okay, so I'm going to use all of that next week. I'm going to take out all the charms that we have made over the past few weeks. For those who have been making it together with me, okay, we will take all the charms that we have made, and then we will start making a bracelet and earrings. I'll show you what we need for next week. If there's anyone who's interested and they're not sure where to purchase the materials from and things like that, okay, you can always let me know, PM me. We can go to ArtFriend or Spotlight, and we can get all these materials together. Okay, there are some places in Chinatown which you can get them too. So, but they're a little bit hard to describe to you. It's better if I bring you, so you will know next time you can get those things on your own. Okay, so now we're going to use the eye pin. I have 2, so I'm going to need 2. So I'm going to take out 2 eye pins. So this is called an eye pin, the one with the loop at the end. I am going to take a wire cutter to, okay, that's not it. I'm going to take a wire cutter to cut short the eye pin because my eye pin's too long. If you bought the correct size one, that's good. Okay, because they have shorter eye pins than this, but I bought ones that were a little bit too long. Okay, now cut the other one as well. Okay. So if you have a flat nose plier, just use the flat nose plier to fold the bottom. So why I'm doing this, why I'm folding the end of it and creating a little fold here is because I want to make sure that the eye pin doesn't slip right out. Because metal is quite smooth, so if you just stick it straight in, okay, it will slip out if you don't glue it in. But if I add a little end like this where I kind of fold it in half, okay, most likely it will not slip out. But if it slips out, just take glue and then add some glue to it and stick it back in, okay? But what I'm doing now is I'm going to just add this in now so that I can bake it together with my cake when I stick it in the oven. So for baking, you would set it at about, if you have a big oven like I do, the built-in ones, okay, you put it at 120, you stick it in for 25 to 30 minutes, what's recommended on the package. If you have a small toaster oven, put it on a low setting, okay, so maybe about 100 to 110, and then you bake it for about 5 to 8 minutes first, depending on how hot it gets. Make sure it doesn't burn. Then you take it out and you stick it back in for another 2 minutes again till it's done. You will know it's done when you, okay, so this one's done. You'll know it's done when you stick your, use your fingernail and you kind of try and make a dent at the bottom, and there's no, the clay is still smooth. So the clay doesn't change and there's no dent. If it dents in, okay, you can see a nail mark, that means it's not properly baked yet. Then you would stick it in again for another few more minutes. Okay, so this is done. I will send it in for baking. All right. So make sure you do the texture. Okay. So I did these two earlier and it was a mistake because I didn't do the texture for the sponge. So this two is the definite improved version of it and it looks a lot better. Okay. So this is what today is done. If there's any questions, please feel free to let me know and we can discuss about some of the questions you may have. But while waiting for your questions, all right, I am going to tell you what we need for next week. Okay, so it looks like a lot, but this is really what we have been making for the past 4 to 5 weeks, all right? We made lollipops, you know, all the sweets, made cupcakes, all right? Donuts, we started with the donuts first, okay? And then we had ice cream, so this is the ice cream. And then we had lollipops, okay? And then all the cupcakes here. So, and the cakes from this week. All right. So you're going to get all the charms that you have made. Okay, gather them. If you didn't make this many, it's fine too. Just gather what you have. And then we are going to need, okay, I'm going to make some into keychains. So I have key rings here. Okay, I got this from Spotlight. It's like $5 for 10 of it. Okay. If not, if you're not interested in key rings, you can get this, the chain type, also good for keychains. This is from Art Friend. Okay, and this one will give you a lot more. I think this one is 8, if I'm not wrong. But this is a lot cheaper. This was like $2 plus. It was like half the price. Okay. So you can get this from Art Friend. If you need help finding any of these things, let me know. We can always arrange a time to meet up and go get these items. Okay. Now, the other things you would need, this is for keychain, is if you want to make earrings and things like that. So if you go make into earrings, make sure you have so you make sure you have these type of ear hooks, and we might need some jump rings. Okay, so get the smaller ones. These ones are a bit big. If you want to play around with something, you can get chain also, silver chain. So most of the findings I use, they're all in silver. So I'm going to use a silver color. If your eye pin you use is gold, then you would find all these accessories in gold. So I have some chains here and things like that. So I'll be making. The simplest one, I would suggest maybe choose what you want to make. I will show you how to make earrings and bracelets and necklaces next week. I'll be using the polymer clay that I've made to turn it into accessories. But I suggest you choose what you want. If you want to make earrings, then just go buy the ear hooks. Okay? And then you can turn your charms into earrings. If you want a bracelet, you have to get a chain. And then you have to have besides a chain, you have to find this lobster hooks, we call it. Okay, these ones. Okay, girls would know what's this, to clip, to close the end of the bracelets. All right, and you will need a jump ring as well. Okay, so it's a ring at the end also for the bracelet, so the lobster hook can hook into it. Necklaces, you would need the same thing, chain, lobster hook, and this. So necklace and bracelet is you need the same materials because one is just longer than the other. Okay. If you want to do keychain is the simplest if you ask me. You either need a key ring like this, or you get one of this ball and chain um, type of things to make the keychain. So just stick with one, okay? If it's your first time making this. If you're not new to this, then of course, please feel free to knit everything together with me. But if it's your first time, my suggestion is get maybe choose one, whether it's earrings, bracelet, necklace, or keychain. I will put this up on my, I will post it on my group later, so you can take a look at what you need to buy. If you're not sure, then definitely private message. PM me, let me know. We can meet up and I can advise you on what you need. Okay, so besides all this, you would need pliers. Okay, I know they sell like a set for $20 if I'm not wrong at Art Friend. So you can try Art Friend or Spotlight, either or they will have. Okay, and that is what you will need for next week. Okay, next week will be mainly, next week we won't need clay. Next week will be mainly all the accessories and we'll be making accessories next week. Okay, if not, this is the end of my session today, and I'm happy that all of you have been joining. Okay, yes, Stephanie said, all this says yummy treats. Yes, I'm actually quite hungry. I want chocolate cake, but Oppa's laughing at me in the back. Don't laugh. Okay. So in the meantime, if any other questions, you can post it on the chat group and not chat group, I'm sorry, the group itself. And I will answer those questions. Okay. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys next week at the same time again. Okay. If not, have a good week ahead. Bye.